Walter, editor-in-chief of the Cook Political Report, Kimberly Atkins-Storr, senior opinion writer for the Boston Globe, and Stephen Hayes, editor of the Dispatch. Thanks to all of you for being here. Happy Father's Day. Ryan and Steve, appreciate it. Let me start with you. What are you hearing on Capitol Hill, Ryan, in the wake of this horrific attack in Minnesota? I know, obviously, you heard Senator Klobuchar talk about the fact that it has really shaken a lot of people. Are lawmakers shaken to their core?
There's no doubt that lawmakers are shaken as a result of what happened here, but they were already worried about the level of violence and the fact that so many of them are targeted because of their roles as public servants. And there's a bunch of issues here. There's a financial issue. There's a logistical issue with keeping 435 members of the House of Representatives safe on a day-to-day basis. It's just physically impossible to provide them the level of security that would make sure they're safe all of the time. And our Capitol Hill team reported out a call that took place with Speaker Johnson and members of the Republican conference where they were just not given the assurances that they were looking for, that they would be able to be protected despite what happened here over the weekend. And this is an issue that is not going away, Kristen. There is a real retention and recruitment problem that is connected to keeping lawmakers safe. There are many people who are qualified and would be good representatives who are just saying, it's not worth it because if I can't keep my family safe, I'm not going to run for office.
Absolutely. And Amy, where are we? That there's a retention problem, that people are quite literally afraid to serve because they're afraid about their family, their own safety.
There's no doubt about that people who really do want to be good public servants. And the fact that these were also, they were targeting, he was targeting state legislators. This is even folks who don't have the same public persona as, say, somebody who's in Washington, who's on TV all the time, who comes onto your show. If you're a city council person, usually you have your address published publicly.
Yeah. People
know where you live. People know what neighborhood you live in. So this goes all the way down beyond just what's happening in Washington. It's also a great silencer, though, too, Kristen, of opinion, of people taking tough votes, of standing up to their own party or standing up for a certain issue, knowing that this could bring onto them more than just vitriol online, but literally someone to their front door that could harm them and their family.
Steve, talk about that chilling effect, not only in terms of people raising their hand saying they want to serve, but in terms of speaking out and taking tough votes.
Yeah, I can't tell you the number of conversations I've had with members of the House and Senate who have said to me, there's just no upside in making my view known here. And look, we have prominent examples of people who have left Congress, left public service because of this. Mike Gallagher, representative from Wisconsin, one of the most effective young lawmakers in the country, substantive, thoughtful. This was somebody who led bipartisan efforts on cybersecurity, on China, ended up leaving Congress because his house was flooded near Green Bay. And he said, I signed up for this, but my family didn't sign up for this. And I give Mike Gallagher particular credit for acknowledging that factored into his decision to leave public service, because for every Mike Gallagher, there are 10 people who feel the same way but aren't saying it out loud.
Kimberly, talk about this and the broader backdrop, the tensions across the country. Obviously, we saw protests across the country yesterday. We really saw California, LA as ground zero, I think, for the tensions over the president's immigration policies. One more data point, I think, in a country that's wrestling with a lot of heated emotions right now.
Absolutely. I mean, this is an inflection point where we could see from the protests just how many Americans are rejecting this idea, the visuals that we've seen of people being ripped from their homes, their workplaces, going into schools and other parts of the community. People who, the majority of Americans, want a better immigration system. They want reforms and they want a strong border, but that is not what they want, and that raises those tensions. But I think another thing that we have to talk about, we can't harden every lawmaker's home or office or wherever they go, but we need really strong enforcement, especially when it comes to, and we don't know everything about this suspect yet, but when it comes to domestic extremism and radicalization, that needs to happen beforehand. What we want is a situation like Gretchen Whitmer, if it's going to happen, where it's thwarted beforehand. And you need a focus on law enforcement at a local, state, and federal level. And we just have not seen that in a very long time. We still have a national security apparatus that's more focused on international terrorism than it is at the threat being grown right here at home. And we need more attention to that.
And it's extraordinary that there is a manhunt underway as we have this conversation. Ryan Nobles, pick up on the points about this debate over immigration. You saw the poll numbers there that Steve Kornacki had. President's poll numbers getting a little bit softer on that issue. I thought it was notable to hear Senator Paul's response and really invoked the fact that President Trump floated the idea of maybe there could be carve-outs for farm workers, agricultural workers.
Yeah, but it also feels like a little bit of deja vu, right? It seems like every time we have this conversation about immigration, there's an administration that takes a heavy hand and goes heavy into deporting and trying to restrict action at the border. They realize the consequences of that, and they suggest some sort of middle ground. In this case, it's the president suggesting that perhaps farm workers and day laborers have some sort of carve-out. They always end up running into resistance from the hard right and the immigration hardliners who believe that there should be no exceptions made. So he's floating this idea. There is a trial balloon. I can tell you that there are conversations happening on Capitol Hill with Republicans and Democrats who want to see some sort of pathway to making this happen. But I've covered a lot of immigration debates that end up getting caught up in the rhetoric that's connected to it. So we'll have to wait and
And
see.
Amy, you have as well. But what's notable about this moment is we are seeing these anti-ICE protests take place across the country. Even though the president, to some extent, this is still a strong issue for him. There's a disconnect there.
There is. If you look at the president's overall rating on immigration, it's still above water. And part of the reason, if you look under it in some of the polling, is that people think that those getting prioritized for deportation are the bad guys, the criminals. If you look individually at the polling about what people support and who they support deporting, if it's people who've lived in this country for years, don't have a criminal record, most Americans, including the 30-40% of Trump voters say, no, we shouldn't be deporting them. So once you get into the individual cases, it becomes a much tougher sell, which is why you do have the president saying, let's have these carve-outs. If the focus is on them, then his poll numbers are not going to stay as high.
Steve and Kimberly, with the minute we have left, Steve, first, I want to highlight this interesting piece from your publication, The Dispatch, saying that Trump administration's approach to immigration is, quote, bordering on overkill and could potentially lose him some support.
Yeah, well, we were actually picking up on a point that Amy had made earlier this week. A very smart point that she just made. Look, I think there's reason for the president to be concerned about this. Reuters reported this morning about new numbers, unpublished numbers from ICE, suggesting that about a third of the 177,000 people arrested between October and May had criminal convictions, and the rest did not. That's a soft spot for him.
Yeah. Kimberly, Democrats seem to be finding their voice. 15 seconds.
Yeah, I mean, where they have to dig in and say, look, this isn't what it's supposed to be. We have a broken immigration system that needs to be fixed. The solution is not strong arming and pulling people from their homes. The solution is get together, put your grown-up pants on, and find a solution, and that's what has been lacking.
All right, great conversation, guys. Thank you so much. That is all for today. Thank you for watching. Happy Father's Day to all those dads out there. We'll be back next week because if it's